the Nifty Alpha. We're discussing. Wait, what's the title of the video? It's CryptoPunk
CryptoPunks.
Truth.
Exposed.
Exposed. Oh, we're about to expose some of the deepest, darkest secrets behind those evil CryptoPunks. You see them out in the street. You see them, in the metaverse, on the internet, and you're like, who the hell are these people? This is thumbnailless also. Like, we're just getting lazy, bro. We are getting lazy. Like, we're not even looking professional anymore. But it's all good. This is going to be fun. We love everybody. So what's the deal? Let's talk. Maybe we have some stories to share. Your boy Sophisticated Art Speculator has some stories to share as it applies to punks. I have some stories to share. Pio, I don't know if you have stories to share. I'm gonna be honest. I have no idea.
Well, I'd love to. So we're talking about CryptoPunks. The reason that I think it's relevant to talk about CryptoPunks is I think because of the sort of success and the positive reception from Bored Ape Yacht Club, specifically last week at NFT NYC. For the first time, I almost saw punks get called into question a little bit, and the punk floor has been dropping a little. And then today we saw a whale sweep the Bored Ape Yacht Club floor. So it's not out of the question to call a flippening of sorts, Bored Ape Yacht Club over CryptoPunks. So I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a deep dive into punks. I know you two both have stories. I'd love to hear both of them. What's poppin', Sophisticated Art Speculator? Sorry we were late today. And, I guess maybe we can start with Sass here with KIX. Can you talk about when you found out about CryptoPunks and your experience with CryptoPunks afterwards?
Wait, you're telling me this guy is the same as KIX.eth?
Yeah, it's not one and the same. That's my alt account.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing if I can power level 2 Twitter accounts at the same time.
Okay.
Oh, wait, there's 2 accounts?
No, it's 1 account.
And it's KIX.eth, okay? Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, that part's important. That's the value.
But yeah, maybe. Go
Nick,
ahead.
What were you thinking? You want to talk about start with kind of the recent events first?
I like how Pio just shared the video after I did in the Discord. That's awesome. What I was going to say is, well, I wanted to set some context because it's important to first sort of state the context of punks before we dive into our individual stories and we discuss whether or not Bored Apes are going to flip punks, which now seems like more of a possibility than ever before. And your boy right here is surely hoping for that to occur. I'll tell you that much.
I think
you're hoping.
I don't think it'll happen. I think it's possible that it'll happen. I think it would have absolutely nothing to do with NFT NYC. That's my.
That is a correct assessment. So,
yeah.
For those who Googled and searched on this and ended up on this page, you already know what CryptoPunks are. We don't need to explain it to people what CryptoPunks are, but the synopsis is they're NFTs. They're early NFTs, the OG PFP. They're the original PFP that people use. And when NFTs were blowing up at the beginning of this year, who did we look toward for authority on the NFT space? We looked to the punks. We went into the CryptoPunks Discord. I interviewed a lot of CryptoPunks. Claire Silver. I interviewed the founder of Art Blocks, Tony Herrera. Gary Vaynerchuk even ended up owning a bunch, but he bought late. And a bunch of other people I interviewed just straight out of that Discord because it was saying, hey, what's your story about this? And trying to understand get the whole picture of the NFT ecosystem. And so punks were at the hub of that as it applied to collectibles. So that was key. Steve P asked where KIX.eth is. He's right here. He's right there, actually. So that's KIX.eth, if you're wondering.
Yeah, I'm working on a custom intro experience too. So give me a couple days.
Cool. So
it'll have music just like NFT Nix.
Pio, I can't hear you.
Dude, Pio, no. What's going on? Is he on like a e-machine? Like a e-machine?
Oh, now he's back. Now he's back.
Yo, man, e-machine, man. I got the green one, I got the colors.
So that's punks, right? And all of us were looking at this thing, and setting the context is basically saying like Bored Apes came out, and the punks community at that point in time was like, hold up, we are the greatest. We are the best. There was a little bit of frustration because people are like, wow, these punks are very elitist, very pretentious. And now this team comes out, and the apes are just like, ho, 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 in the discords, in the clubhouse. And it was just ape season. And we were just like not giving a fuck and basically saying, nah, we're going to make our own. We're going to make
will
our
say,
own.
because I was there during that time, I think that the Bored Ape Yacht Club it blew up, fan the flames to make the rivalry actually be a thing. Because it's not like punks are like jumping in Bored Ape Yacht Club in by the dozen, you know, talking shit like, hey, you guys suck. No, it was more so apes flooding the punks Discord and being like, we're the best, we're number one. And people are like, fuck off. And they're like, oh man, whatever, you're an elitist asshole. You know, like I think that's really what went down. But you know, the winners write history. So
you're correct. I think that is an accurate assessment. It wasn't like once the penguins, pudgy penguins came around, that became a situation. Like they were straight up trolling Bored Apes and saying, nah, we're the best. Look at your floor now, pudgy penguins. Look at your floor. Time heals all wounds, as they say, and it shows really the outcome there. But yeah, no, that was we were like the apes were being just ridiculous, and some of them were saying like we're gonna flip punks like early on, and I was just like, whoa, like this, it was getting out of control, and it got a little carried away.
Yeah, because here's the thing: there's a decent proportion of punks that bought, if not minted, apes.
Yeah.
Pranksy, who minted a bunch of punks,
Jimmy
sold too early. Jimmy, who just signed an agreement. Did you see 4 of his apes are being used in a cartoon or something like that?
I thought it was music.
Like a band group.
Yeah. So
like a band group.
Nicky Mooks.
The
Nicky
Mooks.
Mooks coming out, just throwing FUD, throwing shade at other projects. Don't mind me. But yeah, so that was that's the general sort of backstory. I think we gave a real short synopsis of it, by the way.
Yeah, and then there was a big rivalry between Meebits and Apes for a while. Meebits definitely won that battle. It was christened by Beeple, who did I say Meebits or did I say Apes? Apes definitely won that.
You said
Apes definitely won that battle. I saw Nick's face. Apes definitely won that battle. But that little rivalry was christened by Beeple doing a series of work. I think he did 2 pieces with Apes and Meebits battling it out. So that was pretty significant in the NFT history. So Apes clearly won that battle by a factor of about 10 right now. And now their sights are on the biggest prize of them all, the punks themselves.
Now, here's the thing. There's an article, if you go to the defiant.io, is a quote which says, Punks/Meebits are an elitist crowd, said an OG NFT collector who has owned Punk since 2018 and is now a member of the Bored Ape Discord. Apes are the complete opposite, which is hilarious. That person was contributing to...
and ironically, that is not true, because what people don't understand is power and money corrupts all. There was a proud ape profile picker. I won't name the person on Twitter. I'm not trying to flame them, but literally wrote, unless you have a punk or an ape, you should not be able to be an NFT expert or consultant.
Who was that?
Huh?
Who was that?
You can figure it out. Anyways, what I'm saying is that elitism is a thing that happens when you become elite, and Bored Ape Yacht Club has become elite. So I would not be surprised for the same elitist things to happen in their camp. But I think it's a really fun rivalry at the end of the day. Everyone loves a good rivalry. If it's sports, NFTs, like everyone loves a good rivalry.
We need each other. The punks and the apes need each other for us to succeed. The fact that the apes have, though, managed to elevate themselves to that level where they're going to battle with punks. That is the most important thing. It doesn't even matter if they don't stand a chance. The whole point is that they're actually now categorized in that group and not competing with a dead fellas, not competing with a cool cats, not competing with amoebas.
Yeah, they're in their own stratosphere, and they're hunting for the apex predator.
Exactly.
Themselves. One thing I'd like to just quickly say, because this is brought up a lot in the rivalry, people like to say that punks have no community. There is no punks community. And that like apes are the real community. And some people draw like comparisons like, where was the Meebits party or the punks party at NFT NYC? And what I would say is that punks do have a community. They've had probably the longest NFT community out there. The thing is that most punks are very wealthy, have successful careers or businesses that they own. They're not unemployed, degen flippers sitting in Discord all the day. Some of them are, but what I'm trying to say is a high proportion of the holders of punks are like running companies like DraftKings. So they're not exactly sitting in Discord, typing, man, we got the greatest community today. We got 50,000 Discord messages, and we're Discord server level 12.
The parties for me are actually a negative indicator, to be completely honest, outside of the fact that the Bored Apes did pull off some of the largest
Well, because please show me one person that's buying an ape to go to these parties.
No,
the only people that are interested in them are people that are already apes. No one's like, oh man, I got to go to this party. Let me buy this $150,000 thing so I can get in all the dope parties.
There's no one doing that. But I definitely ran into a lot of punks who I knew at NFT NYC. It just wasn't categorized by. That's like basically if
punks
you
like to congregate in small groups. If you were to classify them, like animal. What's the scientific profession for people that study animals?
Zoologists.
Zoologists would consider.
Well, they focus on zoos, but not necessarily the study of animals.
So they would say punks congregate in small packs. They're a small pack species, right? They in groups of 3 to 5. Apes they congregate in big groups. They like to come in crowds of like 30.
Yeah, well, I like paying for access to different communities. I'm in Friends with Benefits that costs $6,000, and now it costs like $15,000 to join, which is ridiculous. I haven't interacted with anybody in that community. I'm probably gonna get kicked out. But in terms of, speaking of which, the main point is like, I went to an event the other night that was paid for, and it was a great event. But like, I realized like the best events are not paid for. The best stuff that you're going to are not paid for, outside of like if you're going to go pay for entertainment. By the way, I have to go in a minute, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the situation.
You want to give a pitch before you go, Nick, to join the Discord? We got a commenter here, Christopher, saying the only group he needs to be a part of is the Alpha Portal group.
That is correct. Represent for the Alpha team, and we are getting a bunch of awesome people in there. It's like higher end frat. Who is that? The Alpha Portal, or is
Bored Ape Yacht Club? Bored Ape Yacht Club is higher end frat.
Alpha Portal's coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So instead of joining high end fraternities, rich college students will have their dads buy them a punk so that they can join the most elite fraternity of them all.
Exactly. Like that's what someone should do, is start an apes Bored Ape Yacht Club
program.
Beta Alpha.
That's a good idea. Beta Alpha Chi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, what are you pledging? Beta Alpha Chi, dude. It's fucking
Beta Alpha Chi, baby. We got the best parties.
Beer night.
We're gonna be like, what was that? What was that movie about? The middle-aged Will Ferrell joining the frat party and stuff like that.
Old school.
So yeah,
classic.
We're now like old school, literally doing the creating that fraternity.
We had a new low sale probably for the past 2 months on punks at 77 ETH there. I think that's...
someone said it was sold. but the floor is
Right
now
there.
at 78.8. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
365.
Yeah.
The floor right now is
I want to
78.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I want to call out that MMA Pod has gone on record that if Nick goes, he goes. You don't have to go, MMA Pod. I know you're part of the All Nick Army. Everybody knows that. We all respect the All Nick
No,
Army.
he's probably
but
who Nick has his 5 p.m. meeting with. That's why he has to leave.
Well, he should stick around.
You
even
should
after
pin.
Nick
You should
goes.
pin Dean, bro. Are you even Beta Alpha Chi? Name 5 wallets. Like this is.
And if you ain't naming them with the ENS,
We're gonna
you ain't
come
gonna
up
make
with
it.
interview questions. We're gonna be like, and the founders of this party, you need to memorize all of their names. And you're like Gargamel. Whatever.
Beta Alpha
Gordon.
Chi, collaboration between Misfits University and Bored Ape Yacht Club, have to have an ape to mint.
It's to be fair, this conversation about apes is always way more entertaining than when you discuss punks. Like it's just a better experience because there's.
Well, I mean, it is interesting that a 77 ETH sale, and what are punks sitting at 33?
32.8. Yeah,
32.8. So it's getting pretty.
It's getting closer.
It's getting closer for sure.
The gap is narrowing, and it could continue. I mean, it can, but then again,
Well, I think the ratio on the apes is better, right? The holder ratio.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'm not 100% certain. There's also a bunch of wallets that are missing from punks. So you actually need to, it's more like 9,000 of them really exist. I'm going to run y'all. This has been real. Sorry that I could only stay for 15 minutes. There's a whole situation. We need to figure out our logistical issues moving forward.
We will.
KIX.eth has been causing a lot of them primarily, but okay,
Not
we're
true.
going
to. I was here. I was ready.
I can vouch that is not true. Nick, enjoy whatever you have to do, and all Nick Army should stick around. Thank you for joining us, Nick. But now, me and KIX over here, KIX.eth, don't forget about the .eth, have to dive in.
Baby.
So first of all, I think calling you KIX.eth is my favorite thing. So I wanted to run through something with you, right? Because I know that did you own 3 punks at one time or 3
at one
punks
point in time,
at
yes.
separate?
Yeah, I didn't get much
sleep. At one
sleep.
point in time. Wow. So you owned 3 punks.
Yeah.
Can you give us a super high level, like not too much detail from when you first got into NFTs, like the kind of high level plays that led to the first punk purchase, but then let's slow down once we get to that first punk purchase and kind of dive into what went on there. Is that okay? You're already breathing in heavy because you're getting anxious, but I want to dive in.
Yeah, man, it's almost like a blur all the way back to that
January, right?
No, yeah, but so I mean, I did Nifty Gateway for a few months, gave away half my gains, but grinded up a good bag there. Switched over to OpenSea, made some decent trades, but it was quiet. And then I really got in with apes, bought a bunch of apes, then Bonsais minted.
Bonsais had a ton of hype. It was such a big deal. Augmented reality play, good looking Bonsais. Cool. They were good looking Bonsais.
It was a fun project. Like, it's kind of ironic how the first few projects that came out in the bold one were all high quality, and now the norm is 80% just hot garbage. Yeah, because I literally minted Bonsais, then I think I bought some apes, and then Gutter Cat Gang came out.
Yep,
and I hit all of those.
The big hype, big hype on Gutter. Stealth
hit all of those pretty well. Went into Super Yetis, but sold them all pre-reveal for a 2.5x. Because I remember looking at their art, and I was like, this is some of the worst stuff I have seen. I wonder what that project's up to these days. Are they still building that metaverse they promised?
I doubt it. I remember you were borderline overexposed. You must have been on one when you were buying into that. And I remember in the Discord we were in, someone posted, hey, everybody, if you're going to buy Yetis, before you buy them, make sure you let us know, buy them off of Sophisticated Art Speculator because you might be overexposed. And then they started selling at they were 0.1 to mint, which actually was normal back then. Gutter Cats were also 0.1.
0.2.5.
Exactly. Selling 0.2 before they had sold out. Before they had sold out, they were selling
Yeah,
on the
it was wild.
secondary for 0.15. So then you started shipping them to the secondary and then
Yeah.
minting them. So it was like mint ship, you know, and you made a bag off of Yetis when everybody else lost, if I remember correctly.
Yes. And then I kept making some trades, and by this time we're like in early June, kept making some trades. I think I bought my first punk late June. And funny enough, like in late June, punks were like bottoming out. So I got my first punk for 20 Ethereum. And at that point in time, Ethereum was like, low 2Ks. Yeah. So I got a punk for like 40 grand, 45 grand, my first one.
Wow.
And that was like my profile pick, and I was like holding it and really liking it. And I didn't really have intentions to like flip that or anything like that. It was going to be like a long-term investment for me. And then,
or so you say.
Yeah, so exactly right, dude. Regrets. But then I, kept doing my degen flipping in a bull market and just like stacking more cash. And then I remember, so what happened is, and not too many people remember this, but what set off the punk bull run was this single guy floor swept like
all in one
100
block.
of them in one block.
All in one
like
block, right?
100 of them in one block. So it was just like,
is that OXB1? Is that who
Yeah.
did that? OXB1?
Yeah, just straight aped in, all in one block. People are going crazy. And then 3AC, which is like one of the biggest cryptocurrency trading firms out there, all of a sudden they jump in. And so like when I saw both of those news and I saw a bunch of punks flying, well, what happened is that a lot of people had listed punks and hadn't repriced them, because this all happened in like a 24-hour span.
And
so
what
I
you're
just
about to bring up, like people that just leave things listed, that's fine if it's some bullshit you want to get rid of. But one of me and KIX.eth's friends, this guy Metapunk, absolute badass. He went on a long European vacation. He left his punk listed very high. He listed everything extremely high before he went on his little vacation. Left a punk listed, an ape listed, I think maybe multiple apes actually, all the gutter cats. He had like a top 50 ranked gutter cat, all of these things listed like quote unquote high. Everything got gobbled up. So like, for example, when I was trying to sell my mutant just so I could get a more desirable mutant, like I was trying to sell like above floor, I was setting time like expirations. I'm not just going to leave the thing sitting there, because then one of these floor sweeps happens, it gets gobbled up and the floor goes up by like, 25%, and you're like priced out of the thing,
Yep. Yeah, and so that happened, and that was early August, I want to say. Late July, early August. And so I scooped up, I just pretty much like moved around a bunch of money and scooped up 2 punks at 30 ETH each that had like really cool traits. So now I was sitting on
3.
Yeah, 3 punks. And so my idea was like, okay, and then the floor just absolutely exploded. And I listed one punk at the one I got for 20, I listed at 50. Sold it. So then I was like, okay, cool.
How long was it listed for?
It probably sold within like 3 days or something like that. Like it was a good looking punk, and I priced it well, so someone scooped it up. And so then I had 2 punks left, and the floor is like 55 ETH at this time. And I'm like, in hindsight, it's like, oh no, yeah, obviously it was going to run to 144 ETH, but like in reality, it's like punks are so expensive, and I watched them go from 20 to 60 in like 2 weeks, and so I was like,
toppy.
Yeah, it felt toppy. So I sold one at 65 and one at 60, and my whole plan the whole time going up was like, okay, I'm going to sell 2 of them and keep one as like my permanent profile pick. But when I just saw the amount of money sitting in all 3 of them, 180 ETH roughly, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to, like, I should take the money. Like I'm just looking at a pile of money here. I should take this right now. I should take this and run. In hindsight, I wish I held on to one of them, but I sell them, and then
present value, that's 846K. Your
Yeah.
like current day value, that amount of
Yeah.
ETH is 846K. So sorry,
Yeah.
you said I kid you not.
Yeah, exactly. 846K. So you got to think like, and there's some people out there that are just like really good at diamond handlers. Like they don't really care if it all goes down to zero. But like I'm trying to change my life in the fact of like I never want to have to work a normal job again. And I want to have enough cash to trade to be able to invest in opportunities and all this stuff. So I'm looking at such a high percentage of my net worth sitting in 3 punks. I'm like, okay, got to sell them. I sell them. I kid you not. 2 days later, the news comes out. Visa buys a punk. And so that takes the floor from 60 to 100 in 2 days. And so I'm like, holy shit. You know, definitely wish I held on to one, and maybe I should have had the balls to hold on to, you know, 2 or more. And one of the big lessons for me that I figured out with like most things, especially if you're trading things that are like good fundamentals. So like punks is good. It's not a shit product. It's a good fundamentals, right? Like Sandbox Land, Sandbox the token. I sold that a little too early on the top, actually decently too early on the top. My problem is that like I don't want to lose profits when it corrects because everything always corrects. I mean, look at punks. It went to 140 and it went down to 80. But what I've learned is that you can wait for something to top off. And if that's the actual top, you can still sell it 2 weeks later for 20 or 30% off the top, but you're still probably more often than not, you're selling way higher than if you like try to time the top on the way up. Cause you just never know like the catalysts that can cause things to go to the moon. You know what I mean? You just never know. So in hindsight with a lot of my trades, and I'm trying to work on this, is like just let it go to that FOMO peak top. And if it retraces 20, 30%
on the
over
way
like,
down.
exactly a week or two, then sell on the way down. Usually selling on the way down after a blow off top, you're still way ahead than if you try to time the way up. So good lesson in that. But at the end of the day, I'm not mad that I sold all of them. I'm more mad that I sold a bunch of apes at like 5-6 ETH. You know what I mean? Like 10 that's more painful than the punks to me, at least personally. But what I tell myself is that if I had all of that money sitting in punks, I probably would have been so nervous that I probably wouldn't have been making other trades that have now made me more money. You know what I mean? Like, would I have minted mutant apes like I did if I was sitting on 800 grand of punks, right? I'd probably be like way more kind of like, hey, I don't have much left other than these punks. You know, I may have not been making the same decision. So it's like easy to go back and be like, oh, I should have held it longer. But like if you took that liquidity and then made good plays with it, like you may have came out, albeit with way more work, like still at the same place if you had held stuff or maybe even farther ahead. So at the end of the day, I'm happy, but you know, I wish I maybe held on to one to, you know, have as a profile pick. Cause I mean, I definitely had engagement, you know, at really high levels, surprisingly higher than now, rebranding as a serial company for some reason. Punks get more likes. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Well, I think everybody understands that the serial rebrand is a big brain move. So, you know, everyone's going to,
yeah,
I think it's ahead of its time. Yeah, it's ahead of its time. We see that all the time.
It's counterculture. It's like everyone's using $1,000 profile pics. I'm trading them, but I'm KIX. Serial.
Well, straight up. So I got a couple of comments I want to make. So one thing that you brought up, I think does make sense, which is you basically, let's say you had held those punks, you would have seen an appreciation rate where basically your unrealized gains were something to the tune of probably $500,000. I mean, that's kind of like really, you know, shoddy math right there.
Yep.
Right around there. So then you're looking at a portfolio of just all of your investments. And at this point, when you have, you know, almost $1 million worth in 3 JPEGs, those are absolutely investments. And you get in this position where you're like, well, how much crypto do I have? How many stocks do I have? How much cash do I have? How much is my house worth? And all of a sudden, the 3 CryptoPunk JPEGs are the lion's share of your net worth. Yeah. And if you're a crazy rich guy, that's totally fine. If you're just totally like a gazillionaire, exactly, totally fine. But I feel like so many people must be in these positions where the JPEG starts swallowing up like the pie chart of their net worth. It's just JPEG, you know? And at some point,
and it's hard to sleep at night when that's the case. You know what I mean? That's why they say it's hard. The hardest thing to do is to make your first 10 grand, then your first 100 grand, you know, then your first 1 million, and then 10 million. Like it gets easier at each of those milestones, because then you can make bigger moves relatively, or like bigger moves absolutely, but relatively not be as a big of a piece of your pie. You know what I mean? So if I had $10 million, I'd probably, at the time, I probably would have still been holding those 3 punks. But that's not you know, I'm trying to make it. I'm still trying to make money. I'm not sitting on it. If you're sitting on that much money, you can make better decisions. But at the end of the day, like the people that did diamond hand everything to the top ended up way farther ahead of me, but I still count my blessings, because like the thing is that there's an art in selling or holding, but there's also an art in buying. So even if I can look back at that and say, hey, I didn't sell it properly, I did identify the proper markers to make those 2 buys at 30 ETH that then doubled in value in 2 or 3 weeks. So sometimes you're not going to be the best seller, you know what I mean? But if you're a really good buy, you can't sell if you're not in the right opportunity, right? So if anything, I'd rather be a great buyer that maybe paper hands things too early than to be a not great buyer, but a great diamond hander. Because then it doesn't matter if you're a diamond hander if you're not getting yourself into the right positions.
And on the things that you just talked about, so I know that Pranksy is someone that I've heard you say is brilliant with the way that Pranksy prices the things that he sells. And I know he's famous for selling all the apes. I think he had 1,100 apes and he only has 1 now. So he sold all the apes and basically made the market. I don't know if he sold punks. I don't know if you would know that.
Yeah, I think he flipped punks like way back in the day, but like he got out of it, at least most of them, before like the big boom. So like, if you look at him, he's not a good, and this is, I think, where you're probably leading. He's not the best sell at the top guy, but he is, you know, and people like to say he hasn't done something in a while. It doesn't matter if you like have a bunch of misses or singles and doubles. If you mint 1,000 apes and make $5 million off of it, that funds, or 10 million or whatever you made, that funds all of those other things. So yeah, he's like a really great buyer.
And when because I know that like on one of the, like in your background, you've been tasked with identifying really good buys, right? What sort of indicators do you look at to determine if a project, like a really well-known project, like a CryptoPunk that has all the eyes on it, to find a good buy in a project like this? Like what sort of things, and I know it's like a loaded question, but if you can give any indication on what sort of things you look for, I think the audience would appreciate that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there's a lot of correlation between this and my calls on Sand and Mana. Both of those plays were news-driven events, and it has to be a significant news-driven event that's going to create a catalyst that's going to trickle down, and you find out about it early enough, right? Because like people connect the dots at a different speed, and that's part of the value. If you're like tapped in and to the right communities and stuff like that, you can kind of get news maybe faster than others. But like the reason why I bought those, like the first punk I bought just because I thought I was buying the low, and it ended up being buying the low, and I thought it was a good investment. The next 2 I bought were like momentum trades, and the momentum was a guy just floor swept 100. 3AC, one of the biggest crypto traders firms, just bought in. Those 2 people seem very intelligent. They're not buying in for a 50% gain. They're buying in because they've seen some markers on their own end, and they're buying because they think this thing can probably 4 or 5x. And so
Land grab style, land grab, right?
Exactly. They're not going to buy 100 and then like try to flip 100 at 50% gains. That doesn't work. Make sense. They would just dump the floor right back down where they got it. So, and I just saw the volume, you know, that's the same reason why I minted Bored Ape Yacht Club, is because they were having like 3 sales a minute on Memorial Day. I was like, this volume's like crazy, and like volume creates more volume. It's just like how it works. Momentum creates momentum. And so the same thing with Sand. I was like, holy crap, Mark Zuckerberg just rebranded his company to Metaverse. What's everyone going? That's a news-driven event. What's everyone going to do to get exposure to that idea? They're going to go buy Metaverse tokens, and then those exploded. So like that kind of trade is like a news-driven event trade. And then this doesn't work in a bear market, but in a bull market, a lot of times I'll just trade. I'll either mint or I'll trade like straight off of momentum or like ideas that are like proven to work. So like in a bull run, something that worked with like a 90% win rate was if punks move up in price, or if Bored Ape Yacht
Apes.
Club moves up in price, yeah, then their secondary projects have a delayed effect, but then also move up to match that move. So if punks go from 30 to
Meebits,
60,
mutant punks.
Meebits are going to go from 2 to 4. If Bored Ape Yacht Club goes from 30 to 70, then mutants and Kennel Club are going to like follow that. So like that's like a trade that has like a high success rate. If in a bull run, if you're looking for minting or trading, you can also just do it straight off of volume. So a lot of people are like, they'll look at how quickly something's minting. And if it's like, okay, the art, like literally the checklist I used to do in a bull run was the art looks pretty decent. It's minting like crazy, you know, and I see some smart people buying it. Those were like all the indicators I needed to, you know, buy into something. Secondary is even easier in a bull run. You just look for volume breakouts and you're like, okay, this thing's consolidated at this price for 2 weeks and now it's starting to rip. And if you just get in early, once again, volume creates more volume. People start hearing, oh, I just bought a Bored Ape Kennel Club, and they tell their friends, or people see it on OpenSea trending, you know, like, so if you can catch the data before the other people, then like it's a pretty high like win rate trade. In a bear market, it doesn't really work because a lot of the pumps aren't sustained because so many people are looking for exit liquidity that they're either trying to flip it super quick, or as it pumps,
the tops
people
come
that are in
quick.
the product. Yeah, the tops come so quick.
Yeah, and I mean, with that volume makes more volume. I've had that during bull markets, of course, where, you know, you're buying something because of the volume, like, you know, something new just minted and it's moving like crazy at like 0.08, 0.09, 0.1. And there was one time where I was buying it up and I was buying and listing and just like looking for a flip from like 0.1 to 0.25. And I remember one time I listed something at 0.25 right after I bought it at like 0.09. And when I checked my wallet, like, you know, 2 minutes later, as I was still buying, I was like, where did that one go? Did that transaction fail? I could have sworn that it went through. It had already sold at a quarter ETH when I had just bought it at 0.09 or something like that. So
Bull
that was a
markets are so
crazy
fun.
indicator. It's so fun, and you just can keep adding to it. One thing I wanted to ask you on is when you were talking about, you hear the news about Meta, the Facebook rebrand, that leads you to the token. You picked the token before the actual land because you figured that the token would be more accessible for people and it's easier to just get in and get out of that.
Exactly. Like people are going to buy a token first. As you said, it's easier to get in and out of. And like NFTs are just more complex than buying a token. You know, like if you want to buy sandbox land, all of a sudden a bunch of questions come up. Like, okay, how do like where's the good land? Like what's a
where's
good
the plot?
Exactly. You know, like what can I do on the land? Like all of these questions arise. Whereas it's like, oh, metaverse, I want exposure to metaverse. Oh, here's a metaverse token. Like buy. Like it's so frictionless for someone to do that. And then
liquid.
Exactly. And then what was the most fascinating thing is that sandbox land ripped for 36 hours without the sandbox land floor moving much at all.
The token ripped for
The
36
token
hours.
ripped
The
for
floor
36 hours before the land really started ripping. So like if you were an absolute legend, I did this to a certain extent, but not as big as I should have. The move was buy the tokens, rip a 3x, take all of your profits, dump it into sandbox land, rip another 2.5x, and you're up 6, 7, 8x on your original investment.
That's wild, man. That's like the exponential gains. So one question I have is, you know, obviously you're doing well with crypto raiders, bright future in the space, bright future of making money. Do you see yourself ever owning a punk again?
Great question. If I get rich enough, probably yes. But it would have to be because at these levels, I really don't think, unless something absurd happens in the liquidity space, like I think that these things are just gonna like it's so hard for me to imagine these just ripping to 200 ETH. So I wouldn't be buying it for a short-term profit like move. I would be buying it and thinking, hey, you know, over a 3-4 year horizon, I'm definitely probably up. But in the short term, I'm buying it just as like a profile pick, like investment. And if I'm making that kind of thing, it'd have to be 10% of my crypto net worth. You know what I mean? So I'd have to be sitting on $5 to $10 million to want to buy a punk again, and I'm nowhere near there. So it's gonna take some time if I end up doing that.
it might be like a bear market thing when literally, you know, the whole world is the NFT market is crying. Like I kind of think will happen in the near future. I probably won't be in a position to buy a punk, but then again, who knows?
Yeah.
But if the whole NFT world is crying and you know, we throw the baby out with the bathwater and these things correct, you know, a solid amount, that might be a situation. But I totally agree with you. You need to have to really have the guap. Any closing thoughts on punks? Anything else you want to cover?
Just thought it was awesome to even have the experience to like own a punk and make money off of a punk. That was like super fun. And punks are cool. And I trust me, I've owned apes and I've owned punks. I think that they're both clearly the top two. Some people may not like me for this, but I always felt a little cooler with a punk than I did with an ape. Having said that, when I was doing that, apes were 5 ETH, punks were, you know, 40 ETH. Now that punks are 30 ETH and apes are, or sorry, now that punks are like 77 ETH and apes are like 33, maybe it would feel cooler to like have an ape. But there was just something so like nostalgic about having a punk. You know what I mean? It was like the holy grail. It was like, this is cool, you know? But also I'm not like the biggest person with profile pic like flexing anymore. So that's why I don't even know if I would want to buy one unless like I thought it was like a great investment opportunity, just because I think that like who cares if you have a punk or an ape if you're making money in NFTs? You know what I mean? You can make a crap ton of money in NFTs and never touch a punk and an ape. You know what I mean? You could be flipping crypto toads from 1 ETH to 10 ETH. You could be minting cool cats and riding that up to 10 ETH. Many a millionaire was made with that. You know what I mean? There's so many opportunities out there that like they're cool. They're definitely the best in the business, but I'm here to make money at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So I'll make money with whatever. I don't care.
Hell yeah. Well, look, everybody, thank you for watching the show. There's a little punk special. I saw a lot of questions about Sandbox Land. We will pick KIX.eth's brain about Sandbox Land in the future.
Eat.
This is after the serial rebrand. Yo, thank you so much, Lego Batman, for the donation. Thank you so much to NFT to you for the donations.
Thank you.
If you want us to cover something in the future, yeah, absolutely, let us know. Thank you for the support. We don't have the outro music the way we normally do.
And tomorrow's show we'll probably do like more current event, because we've done like 2 like kind of explainer videos. Tomorrow will probably be like a current event thing, so we'll be able to bounce around to projects that other people want us to talk about.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for watching, guys. We will catch you next time. See ya.